We have an update for you on the case involving Robert Durst, the former real estate mogul who was featured in the HBO documentary The Jinx. Durst is taking a plea deal to a federal weapons charge. He'll be serving 7 years and 1 month for the crime. However, he does still face charges for allegedly killing his friend Susan Berman in 2000. 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty has been following the many cases of Robert
I'm the
Durst.
reporter.
You are?
I'm sorry, I'm the Robert Durst reporter.
I started on it shortly after Susan Berman's body was found, so that was 2000.
Mm-hmm. And who saw who saw the twists and turns, including his involvement in this documentary that we were just discussing will be introduced in at least one of these cases. But to this now, to what we learn today, he could have served 10 years.
Yeah, it's up to 10 years for this one federal gun charge. He actually agreed to take this plea deal back in February. Mm-hmm. Today is officially the sentencing. Mm-hmm. He gets 7 years and a month. That's something they had pretty much agreed to. But I think where Durst's attorneys are focusing on is where he's going to be held. This is taking place in New Orleans, this sentencing, but that's not where he's going to be held. He's going to be held at Terminal Island, this federal facility where Al Capone was once held.
Which is fascinating.
Yes, I thought so. And he's there because he and his attorneys insist that he wants to go on trial, clear his name on the Susan Berman case, so it's not hanging over his head. He's still, no matter what, going to have to serve his federal time. But, you know, it's such an interesting thing to me because I keep wondering whether Robert Durst, rather than sit in a prison cell, would rather sit in a courtroom and go on trial. He's got great lawyers. So that's what this is about today. He will be in L.A. sometime in the next couple of months. He'll be arraigned. And then, according to his attorneys, that could change. They want a trial as soon as possible. So I would say probably early next year.
Well, and again, we should also mention a small fine he'll face 3 years of supervised release in the vacuum of this case. But how does this case then inform what we might see now in the case to come?
Well, this case was just really, you know, he travels a lot. This is not the first time he had been caught with a firearm. He should have learned his lesson. This is really, I mean, if you look at it impartially, this was an unnecessary charge on his part. He just happened to be going to New Orleans.
A self-inflicted wound, if you will.
Right, he was going to escape. There was some talk that he was going to get on the first flight out of New Orleans to go to Havana because he knew about that final episode of The Jinx where he allegedly, you know, said, I killed them all.
But to take people back, because this was, I mean, look, admittedly, I just said to you, I hadn't caught the series in real time. I was going to binge it, and then the news broke the day before that finale. And
real life is almost more interesting.
But look, when the news broke, I guess it did raise the question of, especially with regard to the involvement of the filmmakers, they knew where this was going. There was forethought here.
Well, not only that, that audio taping that everyone's made such a big deal, it happened much earlier,
yes.
over a year before.
Yes.
The investigators were well aware of it. That's why he was arrested the day before, because they were sure he was going to flee when that last episode. So that, I'm sure, will come up in the trial, Los Angeles. But what I think some of that may be irrelevant. I think what the judge is going to try to really focus on is what evidence really connects Robert Durst to Susan Berman's death. She was shot in one time in the head. The gun was never found. He has been found with numerous weapons, and they've never been tied to that particular episode. They do believe she knew her killer. She let him in. There was no sign of a struggle. She had her back to him, most likely. One of the more poignant details is that she might have been picking up she had dogs inside, and there may have been some dog messes, and she had leaned over to pick them up when she was shot. There is, of course, the tantalizing clue of the letter that was sent before her body was found, where Beverly Hills is misspelled, and it's in green ink, and Robert Durst is known to use green ink frequently.
Is that the thing that ties him really most to that?
Well, but be careful with that. That was part of the Jinx, where there is another letter he sent to his stepson, that the handwriting looks very similar, but that handwriting had actually been matched to another suspect earlier in the case. Robert Durst was in California at the time that they believe Susan Berman was killed. But Robert Durst says he was Northern California, and they have that I know of, any proof that he was actually in Los Angeles. It's I mean, look, I've been working on it forever.
15 years,
yeah,
and here we are. Yeah.
I'm worried it will last beyond my career, but I hope not. I find it endlessly fascinating, and I'm not absolutely convinced he did it. I want to be one of those reporters who just say, let's wait and see. Yes, he's a great person to throw things at, but, you know, he was acquitted of dismembering his neighbor. Keep that in mind. So it should be a very interesting trial in Los Angeles.
There are more turns to be had here.
Oh, definitely.
You're always going to be our Robert Durst reporter, Erin Moriarty.
Great.
I promise. Fascinating stuff. We appreciate your time.